Hiya, Uncle Wob, hiya! A small girl exclaimed in an excited squeal, as a powerfully built man chucked her into the air. The man, looking to a woman with a scowl on her face. Oh, you know I won't drop her. I like living. Besides, she's having so much fun. He looked at her, continued scowl. Okay. Only one more time. The woman shook her head and went over to a bench that held many kinds of party foods, and a cake shaped like a spaceship with 4 candles on it. The man, Wob, looked to the little girl. Your mum says only one more, and if you can read this, it'll be the best, okay? She nodded, as Wob pointed to a tattoo on his left shoulder. Can you say these letters? The girl nodded, ecstatically, and said them aloud as Wob pointed to each, her face scrunched up in dire concentration. U-S-M-C-O-D-S-T. Very good. And this? Wob asked, pointing to a red cross in the middle of the design. What does this mean? You're a doctor. That's right, I'm a doctor. Do you know what all those letters mean when put together? Think hard and carefully, okay? Wob always asked the same questions to her when he was about to give her the biggest throw. It had been a routine game for the two of them for quite some time. As such, Selena answered without question. You're a doctor that falls from space to help the good guys. That's right, he said, ruffling her bushy hair, then whispered as he squatted very low to the ground. Let me see how mad we can make your mum, okay? Selena nodded as Wob grinned mischievously, and absolutely launched the small child high into the air with an excited squeal with delight that reached the entire playground. After catching his goddaughter and placing her on the ground, he looked at her mother and simply grinned, not saying a single word, and walked off, grabbing something from a cooler and drinking it. Selena looked at all the presents on the table in front of her with a wide grin. Today was even more extra special, because all of her father's friends were there, and they all had similar tattoos that she had fun reading and getting rewards or treats from it. As she looked at the cake, wanting to eat it and trying to pry inside the container to eat the pretty frosting, she was suddenly yanked by a powerful hand, and then heard the crunching of bone and the tearing of flesh and... Daddy! Selena Thomas shuddered as she bolted upright on her makeshift bed. She looked around and realised that it was no longer her 4th birthday party, and that she was on an alien planet, all on her own. She brought her knees to her chest and held them against her, with her only attached arm, and looked at the hollow photo of her father. Letting bittersweet tears fall from her organic eye, she whispered to herself, I miss you, Dad. Sighing again after some time, she started the process of attaching her right arm, an easy but time-consuming process for her by now, then proceeded to throw clothes about her room, looking for something specific from unpacked boxes. Finally setting on a cat meme shirt and a skirt, she put on her tennis shoes and perused her phone, as it was still temporarily connected to the local data net, to hail a ride to a farmer's market of some kind. Nearly an hour and a half later, she was walking the stalls of the market. She saw plenty of mipops, as it was their native planet, and some other species she didn't bother to look up. She was looking for some kind of herb, plant, or synthetic phasmal to capsaicin. The take-out meal she had ordered the night before was some kind of cross between a wrap and a sandwich, filling and not bad, but quite bland to her Cajun palate, and barely above that which was served on the passenger liner she had been on for 3 weeks. Hours later, she finally found a vendor that would sell her something similar to what she was looking for, in a rundown area where the food stock displayed seemed less than ideal. After paying for all sorts of samples to try and being disappointed each time, she had grown quite desperate. The weird, fleshy and quite starchy bowl she had taken a bite out of was the closest thing she had experienced, sort of a mix between a bell pepper and a coarse black pepper. Actually eating the rest of the bowl in a bliss of taste, she turned to the vendor, making sure her translator was working. This, she exclaimed. I need more like it. The mipops stared at the tiny human before him aghast, as she simply ate the quani bulb, a semi-toxic plant considered to be an aphrodisiac among certain religious sects, though in reality it was a key requirement for a certain poison, banned by the Galactic Trade Commission. She had paid for the item before tasting, and then devouring it with much haste. Those quani bulbs are plant used in specific rituals by a minor religion on this planet. They are highly regulated. I only have a few more, and I'm not legally permitted to sell you another, the Midpops explained, unsure how this being was still alive after eating the whole plant raw, including the stalk. Selena Thomas knew such things were more than likely to occur. Her Uncle Robert had complained to everyone quite loudly how alien cuisine was exceptionally bland to humans. Filling, but bland. Now, she knew firsthand why he complained as loudly as he did, and was now desperate to find anything from Flavortown. What about off the books? Those were so delicious and the most flavorful thing I've had all day. The Midpops looked at the small beam before him, and could recognize a desperate sucker. What can you offer? I know humans aren't this far from their space, so what are you? A criminal? A runaway? She pursed her lips together and thought. Only one thing coming to mind for her, and she knew she would most likely regret it. But such a small taste of home for the first time in so long. I'm a new prosthesist, fully certified. I can do tune-ups for these. She then displayed her credentials to this unnamed and most likely quite sketchy Mipops. It was a long time before the Mipops answered, almost to the point where Selena was about to leave. I'll talk to some of my friends. Come back here in 4 planetary rotations and I'll see if we can work something out. Selena nodded. Okay, but you better have more of those for me, she said, and walked off again, not realizing what her words would do until very much later. Finally finishing up her market trip, she arrived home far later than she had expected. She started up a vidmail to her mother, who was still back on Earth, as she set up her previous prosthetics to undergo a lengthy full diagnostic, and started up her exceptionally bland dinner. As she was stirring up her small pot of soup, she signed off and sent her mum the vidmail, then stopped. What did I just get myself into? She asked no one in particular.